Hey guys, sorry about that. That's what happens when you don't plug it in correctly. Your phone dies and it dies right in the middle of the video. So, trying to get back to where I was. We were talking about cash envelopes. Um, so using cash envelopes is just a good way to kind of get your behavior um, back on track. If you've been out of control spending and you don't have, like, you just go and impulse spend like crazy, it's a very good way to kind of rein that down and get control of it. So what you do is, again, if you get paid, bi-weekly, then you budget 400 a month, and you take 200 out, put it in the envelope, and you have 2 weeks for that money to last. And if you what I know what kills people is the little trips to the store. If you can make 1 to 2 trips for every week, and just budget accordingly. If you have $100 a week, then only spend $50 a week. A trip if you're making 2 trips. If you're making 1 trip, then you've got 100. But that's got to last that week. If you make what people tend to do, and we do as well, is we'll spend that $100 the first trip, but then we'll forget this or forget that, and we need another 15 or 20 bucks worth of stuff, and so we'll go back and we'll end up using we'll get that, and then the next week we do the same thing, and then the third week we do the same thing, and so now we've already spent $60 of that fourth week, and we've only got 40 to last us the whole week. So it just makes you really pay attention to kind of how much you're spending in the grocery store. When we were paying debt off, it was to the point that we would make a list, and as we ran down that list, we would put out beside it on our phones or paper, whatever we had, and we put out the price, and we'd start adding it up as we walked through the grocery store. I'm sure people thought we were crazy or weird because we would stop and we'd pull out our calculators and make sure we were staying in budget. But it made us stay in budget. So if we went over and we knew we were going to be over, then we would figure out what we could live without for that week and put it back. So they're really a good way, and you can use them for anything like that. Cash, groceries, gas. You can your miscellaneous and your personal fund money, for what some people call it. Really anything that you can foresee to pay cash for, whether it's clothes. I'm just trying to think of something off the top of my head, but you can pay cash for almost anything. So you can go to the nth degree on that cash envelope. It is a little more work to do that, but in the beginning I recommend it because it does get your mind in that mode of getting your behavior back on track. So it's one of the biggest ways that I think people kind of help retrain their brain to think, oh, I don't have to have that, I don't need that, it can wait till next week and wait till next month, so on and so forth. So it's a good way to kind of hone in your behavior around your impulse spending. We all have it, don't deny it. We all impulse spend. I still impulse spend. It's not as much as I used to, and so it's not near as much as I used to. But for me, if we do a detailed budget at the beginning of the month, then I'm fairly good about sticking to it. Again, we're human, so you're gonna make those mistakes, but you're just trying to minimize that impulse spending. So anyway, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to throw it up there in the comments. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to get you on, and let's see kind of what you're facing right now, and see if I can help you in the moment. So just let me know. Put it in the comments, or I believe I can get you on camera, but I'll have to look into that. I know it's possible, but I haven't done it yet. But I got a question over here. It says how do you stick to the budget? Kind of goes back to those cash envelopes. That's a big way to do that. But one way in my head is, and I'm the numbers guy, so I'll have to ask Kelly and those free spirit, the people that don't do the numbers daily. I'll have to ask them to see kind of how they think about it in their brains. But for me, when I go to the store and if I go to want to buy something that's not on the list or not in the budget, in my head I'm like, then that's more work for me to have to mess with the budget. I have to refigure the budget, change it all up. Numbers aren't gonna match, and so that demotivates me to impulse spend, to impulse buy something, because I know when I sit down to kind of look at our transactions and kind of balance that out, or track all of our transactions, then I have to do some maneuvering because we bought stuff that wasn't in the budget, or we went way over on groceries or gas or whatever. So that's the way that I think about it. The way that I kind of recommend people to use that frame of mind to help them stick to that budget. It's just that constant thinking about it, constant looking. If you make a budget at the beginning of the month and you don't look at it at all the rest of the month, then you're not gonna stick to it because you aren't thinking about it. You want to say you did a budget and then you walk away from it. It's just like building a blueprint from a house or for a house, and then you get there and you're like, nope, not doing that. I'm just gonna wing it and see what happens. And it's not gonna work. It's not gonna hold up to your standards. It's not gonna hold up to any kind of standards that you want. It's the same with your finance budget. So that's how you stick to the budget. So, and I've got a question here about insurance. I just had a conversation with my insurance guy, or the company we use today, and it's going to be put up on YouTube even here soon, probably in the next week or so. But it was really talking about what insurances you need, what are they, how do they operate within our situation. I mean, what is insurance in general? So we go over all of that in that video, but I'll kind of give you a summary. Basically, there's 7 main types that we kind of recommend for you to have, and that depends, but you may only have 6 until you reach a certain stage. So we talked about term life insurance. We don't do whole life insurance. A summary of the difference: whole life is more geared towards saving in that life insurance policy, where when you die you don't get that money that you saved. So it's by term. Invest the difference is a kind of the what you hear a lot from the financial industry. But so term life insurance, we talk about home insurance, obviously, auto insurance you have to have. Now the big things with those is what coverages do you have within those. So do you have enough liability on your auto insurance? There's the minimum is 30, 60, 25. So you have to have 30,000 per individual for injury, 60,000 for the total accident injury, and then 25,000 for property damage. So if you get in a car wreck, it's 30,000 medical for one person is not a big deal. You can get to 30,000 really quickly, especially if they got to be care flighted or anything like that. It jumps up very fast. So you could be on the hook for the difference, is my point. So if you don't know your coverages, get with and I would recommend an independent agent. Assured Partners of Texas is the one we recommend. They're out of Plano, and so they do real well. They'll walk you through it. They'll walk you through all the different types. But essentially, we got term, home, auto, long-term disability. You have a higher likelihood of being disabled than you do of dying. So you've got to have something that covers your income if all of a sudden you can't work for 2, 5, 6, 7 years or even longer sometimes. There's what they call catastrophic disability and occupational disability. So if you're a singer and you lose your voice, then that's occupational disability. Now you could eventually go do something else, and it wouldn't. So they only pay for a certain amount of time of that disability. They only give you so much time for the to get paid for, and I think it's like 65% of your income. So, but it's long-term disability. You have identity theft, which is not a prevention. It's not a. They can't prevent you from being susceptible to fraud. You're most likely you're probably going to have some form or fashion of fraud in your lifetime, and Xander Insurance is the one we recommend for identity theft. It's the only one that Assured Partners doesn't provide. But basically, identity theft is just a basic. It's a service that they provide. So basically, what would happen is if you found out that someone stole your identity and they racked up 40 or 50 grand worth of debt, and it wasn't just, you're not liable. But what they would do is, the average person, it takes 600 hours to settle that problem. So what they would do is cover that 600 hours. They would do the work that needs to be done to get you back and get your money back and all that kind of mess. So it's not a prevention, it's not a protection. It's a service that they provide to help you in the event that you are caught in an identity theft situation. But so again, we have home, auto, term life insurance, identity theft, long-term disability, long-term care. If you're over 60, long-term care is big, because if you don't have a nest egg to kind of fall back on, if you go in a nursing home and you're out that money, and the state can pay for some of it, but you don't want to go in one of those facilities. It's not the best facility for you. So you want to prepare for that. I mean, and the likelihood of you going in a nursing home before you're 60 is so low, it's not worth the money. So once you turn 60, I think the percentage is like 1% still. So it's still low, but it starts to climb quickly after 60. So we recommend right after, as soon as you turn 60, start looking into it. If you wait too long, then that's when the price goes up, and you may or may not be able to get it because you've already had some issues. So if you're healthy and 60, go ahead and get it, because your nest egg's not going to cover. I mean, just for example, if you and your wife had a nest egg of 500 grand, the man is typically goes in the nursing home first, or dies first, and all that. We all know that, but that's the typical situation. So if he goes in the nursing home and doesn't have long-term care, then he eats up 40, 50 grand a year. And so if you've got and that may be low, so maybe I think it's like 60, 70 grand a year. But anyway, if you do that for 5 years, you eat a lot of that nest egg up, and you leave your spouse with nothing. And so if they were to go into a nursing home, they don't have any money to go. And so you want to pay attention to how much your nest egg is versus how much you may need to do that. So again, long-term care, renters, homeowners, life insurance. I believe that's all of them. I have to double check. Disability. I'm trying to think of them all. We just talked to him a few hours ago, and I can't remember. But again, that's kind of a summary of the insurances that we have, that we recommend that you get. And I would recommend an independent broker that kind of helps shop multiple companies. They don't you have a captive agent like State Farm or Geico or anything like that. They just sell their own product, and so the independent brokers or agents will shop 20 or plus companies. They have contracts with them all. Doesn't cost you any extra, and then they can help walk you through the differences of those policies, because a lot of people just look at the price and they just look at deductibles, and they think they're looking at apples to apples, but 9 times out of 10 they're not. So you need to make sure you have the right coverage and the right insurance. If you have any other questions, we can you can get in contact with me. I can get you in contact with the insurance guys. They can help you out definitely in that field. it's a big part of your finances as well, because it covers it lowers your risk, puts it on somebody else, and that's all insurance is. That's what emergency fund does. The emergency fund covers the little stuff, whereas these insurances will cover anything catastrophic, your house burning down, your car getting totaled or burning down like we had ours recently. So it's covering those things that you can't quite afford to replace out of cash. Now, if you get to a point where you have money, in the bank or in savings, and you can cover some of those things, then you're self-insured. Long-term care is a big one. If you have a big nest egg, you may not need long-term care. Life insurance, you may not need life insurance. That's why we say term insurance, because if you're doing smart things with money now, you'll eventually be self-insured down the road, and you won't need that life insurance. Now, you can still get it if you want it, but it's not necessary. Well, that wraps up about all the questions I have for today. Again, we're going to be on YouTube and Facebook Live next week. So I'll post the link in the Facebook in a Facebook post so that everybody can find it, everybody can see it, and you can jump over there if you want to. And so come next week, come interact with us, get on here, ask some questions. I'd love to get some more feedback from you guys during the video, kind of see what y'all are thinking as I'm talking, as I'm lecturing to you. So sometimes it feels that way, but I want to get more interaction, more communication, more conversation going. I'm a big conversation person. If anybody knows me well, they know I can talk, and I'm not a big outgoing, but I can talk, and so I'll sit and have a conversation with you for sure. But I'd love to do that. If you got anything to talk about with your budget that you want to share with everybody else, let's do that. It'll definitely help other people, because everybody's facing the same thing. Most people don't want to talk about their finances, and I think if we did, then we would learn a lot from each other of how to do things, what things working for me, what things working well for you, and because not everybody's gonna be the same. We're all different people. We all think differently, so you got to find what works for you and how that affects your situation and your family. But anyway, we'll see you next week. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. We're going to be putting a lot of stuff on there here soon, and you have a lot of good info there to bring in, and just free resource for you. Anyway, we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for showing up today.